Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This is Danelle here at Networkchain. Please disregard my scratchy and stuffy voice today, but as we do, we come here every week to bring you information about Bitcoin, the burgeoning market of cryptocurrency. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The cryptocurrency market, as you can see, is down a little bit over the past 7 days. Bitcoin is in that $82,000, $83,000 range, currently trading at time of this recording at $82,941. Ethereum still hasn't been able to get back up above $2,000, currently trading at $1,836. It's actually down almost 8% over the past 7 days. XRP doing even worse at nearly 10%, down to $2.14. Solana at 125. Dogecoin currently trading at 17 cents is actually up about 1.5%. Cardano is down 4% at 67 cents, and Tron rounding out the top 10, currently down about 4%. So if we look at the Bitcoin chart, we can see here, we're looking at the weekly Bitcoin chart. You can see that we're still trying to find some direction as to which way Bitcoin wants to go. Right now, it's kind of teasing everyone. As you can see, over this past week, it went all the way up to $88,000 and then back down within the same week to around 81,000. So will we continue to be range bound in this $80,000 to $90,000 range? It still remains to be seen if we're going to have a break up or a break down. We're hoping that we can hold at least in that $79,000 to $82,000 range. If we continue to stay above that and keep that as support, that's a good sign that we're still in a bull market, and we could potentially see another run up, maybe in several weeks, maybe in several months, could be next week, who knows. Obviously, there's a lot when it comes to the macroeconomic environment. We've talked about that in a number of our videos, but this upcoming week is a big week, particularly when it comes to April 2nd, because that's when we'll find out about some of the U.S. tariffs that could be levied upon various imports coming into the United States. We've already heard from the administration that there should be or will be a 25% tariff on cars made outside of the United States, for example. It remains to be seen if there's going to be a change on that note. We don't know when it comes to what's going to happen with these tariffs. We've heard different things and varying things throughout the last several weeks, so nothing is for certain, but definitely people are looking at April 2nd, because that is when apparently we shall know whether or not certain tariffs will actually take place with regards to certain imports. If there is tariffs on a number of different products coming into the United States, we definitely could see inflation. And with inflation, we've seen what it's done to the macro environment when it hit at its highest levels back in the 2021 time frame or so. And so the Federal Reserve could potentially have to step in when it comes to inflation. If we start to see inflation rates go higher, recession would potentially come thereafter, meaning that people are not going to be spending as much money on different products and items, and then that turns into lowering stock prices because people are going to be taking their money out of riskier assets, particularly stocks as well as cryptocurrencies. So it's definitely something that we need to make sure that we keep an eye on. So it's always important to have an understanding of what's going on in the macro environment. Let's go to one of the biggest news stories over the past week in crypto, is that GameStop, as you can see here, Fast Company thinks they're cute with goes full crypto bro as board votes unanimously for Bitcoin investment. So the video game retailer, which was known in that 2001 time frame for one of the biggest short squeezes of all time. When it comes to stocks, there was a huge short squeeze because of a lot of hedge funds had a ton of money basically betting against GameStop. It was a company that wasn't doing very well. A lot of their stores were no longer selling and as popular as they used to. It is a video game retailer, and they actually are in the process of restructuring and closing down some of their physical stores that they used to have in malls and other outlets and things of that nature, but they do have a ton of cash on hand, and so it looks like they are going to be going into Bitcoin. So they made an announcement in a recent regulatory filing, as you can see here with the SEC, and they explain that in addition to cash, equity issuances, and future debt, and it may be invested in Bitcoin with no set ceiling for the amount of Bitcoin that's going to be accumulated. So as soon as this was announced, the company's stock rose 15%, but then it had a bit of a volatile week, and GameStop investors are very used to seeing the volatility when it comes to this particular stock, because it rose up 15% and then it came right back down over 20%. Once this came out, which was a couple of days later, GameStop announced that they will be pricing a private offering of $1.3 billion of convertible senior notes. So initially, some investors thought that GameStop, which had about $4 billion of cash on hand, that they would use some of that cash to buy Bitcoin. But actually what they're going to be doing is taking a play out of the strategy playbook, is that they're going to be doing a private offering for these senior convertible notes. So basically they're going to be offering and diluting shareholders by taking and offering shares to investors who are willing to provide funds to GameStop. And what GameStop will do, it's still we have to see for sure what they're going to do with these convertible notes, with the funds that they get from these convertible notes. But basically they will be taking that money, most likely buying Bitcoin, holding on to that Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as we know, over time, if you buy and hold, goes up in value, and that will then cause the stock to potentially go up in price, because the value of the company will continue to go up because of the assets that the company owns. And so in turn, these convertible notes will be very valuable for those who bought into, or I should say gave money to GameStop for these convertible notes. And they basically have these notes that will mature, as you can see, on April 1st, 2030, unless they are converted earlier, redeemed, or repurchased. So I definitely am nowhere near an expert when it comes to senior convertible notes. As you can see here, just the key takeaways as we go to Investopedia is that a senior convertible note is a debt security that contains an option making the note convertible into a predefined amount of the issuer's shares. So both usually happens with startups, but it's not just startups. As you can see, established companies as well may choose to issue senior convertible notes as a means to raise funds from investors. So investors of these senior convertible notes benefit from the option to convert their notes into shares of the issuing company. So if GameStop buys Bitcoin, Bitcoin continues to go up before 2030. The value of the assets on GameStop's balance sheet goes up. Therefore, GameStop is going to be more valuable. The shares will be more valuable, and so the investor can now convert for these notes, or I should say these shares that they have been issued, and are able to convert prior to the convertible expiration date, I should say. So some investors purchase senior convertible notes with the goal of reaping significant profits if the startup or established company has a successful IPO or is acquired by another company, or as I mentioned, if the established company like Strategy or like GameStop continues to get more valuable, and if they decide to go ahead and use these convertible notes and buy Bitcoin, then over time, at least from what we've seen thus far, Bitcoin continues to go up into the right. It's very volatile, obviously over a short period of time frame, but if you look at Strategy as an example, they started their Bitcoin strategy in 2020, and since then they have been the highest performing stock, has outpaced all companies in the S&P 500 since it started buying Bitcoin in, I believe it was August of 2020. So you can see here when they first started, they bought at around $10,000, and they continued to buy no matter whether Bitcoin was up, no matter whether it was down. And you can see here that Strategy, the history of their purchases, and just this past week also for them, they hit a major milestone. They have now acquired over 500,000 Bitcoin. You can see their average cost is $66,000. So that's the magic of dollar cost averaging. They continue to buy no matter what the price of Bitcoin was. And you can see they have now reached half a Nakamoto, as people say. A Nakamoto is 1 million Bitcoin. So they are well on their way. So they added another 6,911 Bitcoin on March 24th of 2025. And they bought that Bitcoin at around $84,000. So you can see here the price of Bitcoin each time they continue to make their purchases. So it didn't matter whether it was 60, whether it was 100, whether it was 106 and 94, 90s. These last couple have been in the 80s. So they continue to buy and accumulate Bitcoin, and they continue to hold. You can see here as we go back to our trusty bitcointreasuries.net website, you can see here that no matter the price of Bitcoin, particularly over these last couple of months, you can see here that we're still seeing an increase in the amount of money that's flowing into private companies, into governments, into these smart contracts, particularly with these ETFs, which have continued to do extremely well. They have over a Nakamoto cumulatively. Public companies, you can see that even as Bitcoin has gone up or even started to come back down, the amount of money that's still flowing into all of these in aggregate is still continuing to go up. So just something to keep in mind when you're considering and when you're learning about Bitcoin and this cryptocurrency asset class. It's still obviously a risk on asset, but we do believe that it's one of those assets that could provide exponential return. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on and get familiar with. So one last thing before we get out of here. I know this isn't fun for most of us, but we need to understand what it takes when it comes to taxes. It is that time of year, particularly in the United States. April 15th is right around the corner when taxes are due in the United States. And there are tax consequences when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto, depending on the actions that you take. So we're here at river.com. They are a great resource when it comes to just basics when it comes to Bitcoin. And you can see this flow chart. We actually posted it on our IG as well. But you can see it kind of gives you a general idea. Obviously, they're not tax advisors either, so you need to make sure that you seek professional help when it comes to doing anything related to taxes, because the IRS code is extremely complicated. But anyway, if you do buy and hold your Bitcoin and you didn't sell any of it, then you have no taxable event. Most of us, at least many Bitcoiners out there, are on the path of buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin, at least for an extended period of time. So if you fall in that camp, you shouldn't have to pay taxes until you actually do something with that Bitcoin, whether you trade it for another crypto or whether you trade it for fiat currency. That's when it could be a taxable event. But you can look here to find out a little bit more information about what could be considered a capital gain versus a capital loss. You would only have to pay taxes on capital gains. And to learn more about what also could be considered a taxable event. And it also changes every year in terms of the tax rate and things of that nature. So once again, definitely make sure that you consult your professional advisor. Once again, thank you for hanging in there with us, I should say, for this video this week. I apologize for all the fumbling and mumbling today, but hang in there. We'll hopefully be back better than ever next week. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. In the meantime, take care. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the Networkchain. Bye-bye.